Hey everybody, we got a great turnout. Thank y'all for being here. And Chad, thank you so much for our partnership between BIC and the Economic Alliance Houston Port Region. I am Jeremy Osterberger. I'm with BIC Alliance. Most people know us as publisher of BIC Magazine. We also do marketing for the industrial marketplace. We also have a recruiting division and a sell-side M&A firm called IVS Investment Banking. So thank you so much for being here. Today, our audience is going to have to suffer through me handling two panels. So be patient. Don't throw too many tomatoes, please. Up first is our advanced recycling panel. We're going to focus on advanced recycling partnerships and strong public-private collaboration during circular economy solutions. Hey, quick reminder, we do have our Slido app. Is that correct, Chad? What is? I believe our code is IPFC 2025. There we go. There's our, IPF November 13th is our code. So that's going to be our Slido code. If anyone wants to submit questions, we welcome those. I'll try and get to them throughout the presentation. All right, so joining me on stage, I've got Travis Brown, ExxonMobil Mont Belvieu Plastics Plant Business Team Lead. Travis does a few other things there, and he'll talk about that. I've also got Brian Winningham, who is City of Mont Belvieu City Manager. Thank you, Brian, for being here. And Samantha Humphrey, who is Chambers County Public Information Officer. So let's give a round of applause for our audience being on, panelists being on stage. Travis, I'm going to start with you. Tell our panelists a little bit about your role and everything you do there in Mont Belvieu.
All right, my name is Travis Brown at ExxonMobil. If you see my picture, my 3-year-old son is in the bottom right-hand corner. Couldn't get him cropped out, so he's not feeling great today, but we're going to make it through. I've been at ExxonMobil for 8 years. I was an experienced hire. I've been in the plastics industry for about 13 years at multiple sites. When I got to Exxon, came into a global polymers role, so I got the opportunity to see every single polymer site globally that we operate. So it was a very cool introduction to a very impressive fleet globally. So at Mont Belvieu, I work hand in hand with the TACA organization. I'm one of the operations managers at Mont Belvieu, and I've had also the pleasure of working with the City of Mont Belvieu and Chambers County in this collaboration we're going to talk through today.
Great. Brian, go ahead and tell us about your responsibilities.
Yeah, as a city manager of Mont Belvieu, just like most cities, we're a smaller city, but we are a charter city, so I effectively run the day-to-day operations. Mayor Joey McWilliams and his great board, established the long-term policy, just like most cities. Is there anybody that's here from any municipalities, that city government? See, I can tell good stories, and nobody will catch me. That's good. And so in that role, we try to partner with our industry. Obviously, if you know where Mont Belvieu's at, we're like the region. We rely heavily on our partnerships with our industry, and that kind of leads us to everything we do. We think about the industry. How do we make it better for the employees that work in the workforce, and how do we make it better for our community, and then try to merge those to where everybody's happy living close together with the industry.
Thank you so much, Brian, for that. Samantha is Public Information Officer. Samantha, tell us how long you've been in that role.
So I always joke that in a small government jurisdiction, you have a lot of jobs. So I always kind of say the smaller the jurisdiction, the more titles you have. So that's one of my titles. I have several. I'm the Director of Economic Development, Grant Management, Public Information Officer, and the co-director of the Chambers County Youth Project Show. So I got a lot of roles that I handle. I started at Chambers County in 2013, so I've been there quite a while. Prior to that, I actually worked in public relations in Austin. I graduated from UT with my bachelor's degree in public relations. But I took on the role of Director of Economic Development and Public Information Officer in 2019, right before COVID happened, and so I kind of earned my stripes under that adventure, if you will. I will say, in a room of procurement officers, you guys are my people, because I manage about $60 million in federal grants, and so very well versed in procurement law, especially at the state and federal level. So you guys are my people.
Thank you, Samantha, so much. So Chad mentioned a little bit about the technology guys. Travis, I want to go to you. Start by giving us a little better understanding of the technology and kind of explain ExxonMobil's advanced recycling technology as it is.
I'll start with, I'm not the technical guy, I'm a manager, so I'll start there. So advanced recycling is taking a proven scalable technology, took a lot of testing in the pilot plants. We've been able to scale that up into multiple units that are currently operating. We take a lot of those hard to recycle plastics. We're a complement to the mechanical recycling world that try to get as much plastic out of landfills. So at a high level, just think everything that we can put via advanced recycling or mechanical recycling is just one less pound that's going into our landfills. And we'll talk about it recently, but as this area continues to grow, anything we can do, any type of technology that moves that needle needs to be on the table, and that's what we're here for.
So, Brian, I'm going to go to you. I mean, walk us through how this collaboration between ExxonMobil, Mont Belvieu, Chambers County. I mean, how did this all come together? What's the origin story here?
Yeah, so there's some, good. If you haven't, talked to your city staff, in where your municipalities are at, they should always be trying to find something to collaborate with their industry or something to collaborate with the commercial side. And we have a pretty robust network in Mont Belvieu, and primarily it's because of public safety, because we're constantly talking about any safety of use or anything that we may have to do, and so there's a pretty tight network already. So you see the same faces all the time in normal settings, and we want to do that more often before an emergency. Well, then that leads to a lot of talk about what can we do better for the community. A lot of resources from the industry, not just Exxon, but Talca, as living and breathing in our community, they give back so much. We get donations for our city parks, we get donations for, just things that we may need. And so the public sees that. And so one of the things that we've been challenged with is recycling. Obviously, sanitation and garbage collection. The people in the area want to give back. They want to feel like they're doing something for the planet. Whether it's marginal or not, about 14,000 pounds worth of plastic already in the last just the short time we did it, about a year. And we just went forward as Mont Belvieu and built a recycling location. We didn't have one. It kind of gone to the wayside. And so that was the starter of, okay, now what do we do with the plastic? Well, right now we're taking it somewhere else, and it sort of nets out the fuel cost of dropping the plastics off. So are we really recycling? That led to some conversations with not just some of our partners in Exxon. Obviously, the 2% of the world's starter plastics comes from the city of Mont Belvieu. So I don't want it to actually be known that comes back in our landfills, but that's where that industry of the plastics plant comes forward. And so we feel like we're now on the other end of making feedstock. Now, I won't get too deep into it, but that's the kind of the history story. And Chambers County was a great partner. They have money. They said, we want to do this countywide. So we started it in Mont Belvieu. Talca then came along and wants to do the Baylor system that will eventually lead the whole pipeline. And then we want to really showcase that to the rest of the region and let other cities say, okay, that's pretty easy to do, seemingly. And then just keep growing that. So that's the starter part of it, and I think it leads to some good things in the future.
Samantha, anything to add to Brian's comments on the origin of this relationship?
Yeah, so from the county standpoint, we have had some struggles with recycling, just to be really honest with you. If you're not familiar with Chambers County, we are just neighbors to the east. We're still primarily rural. Most of our county is unincorporated, which means it falls under county jurisdiction to provide services. We have quite a few citizens collection stations, and we own, operate, and maintain our own landfill. We actually had to stop our recycling program at our landfill in 2022, I believe. We, like Mont Belvieu, were exporting collected materials, and we were having a really hard time getting those materials accepted by the facilities we were transporting to. 9 times out of 10, they were rejected because they were mixed. They were wet, they weren't up to standards of the facility, and so we were using county resources to collect these materials, transport them, just to have them rejected and being brought back to the landfill anyway. For us, that was not great. If you know anything about operation of solid waste facilities and programs, they are incredibly expensive. I built a landfill cell using ARPA dollars in 2023, and it was $2 million to build that cell. So just to dig a hole in the ground, just to give you kind of a measure of that, that's how expensive that is. And so We unfortunately had to stop recycling, but that was not something that we were comfortable permanently doing. And so immediately my commissioners and the judge started looking at creative ways to move forward with this, to get that program going again. And we found a great partner in Talca, which I keep looking at you guys, and I think they deserve a round of applause because they are wonderful people to work with. And so we were able to leverage a really cool partnership with them. We've had some success using a P3 model. We're actually funding the construction of a justice center using a P3 model. We use pilot program a lot, payment in lieu of taxes. And so we try to be really creative in how we utilize government and public private partnerships to fund different services that we provide to our residents. And so Talca was wonderful in doing that. And what we were able to do is use land that they had, and we provided funds to help construct the facility where we will transport our materials. So that kind of for us was what kicked all of this off and how we kind of got rolling on this train, if you will.
There's some questions coming in from the audience about the location. Brian, I'm going to go a little bit back to you. I mean, what factors made Mont Belvieu an ideal partner for the location and launching this kind of industrial initiative?
Yeah, I'm gonna get this Slido app because some of these questions. Now, one of them was you all can't see these questions, I don't think.
No, they cannot. No.
Yeah, one of them was mushrooms and fungus in recycling. I'm not answering that. The other one is mechanical recycling, advanced recycling. I mean, I can deep dive into some really geeky stuff on some quantum reality of that. I'm not going to do that either. But there is some cool things about. I'm sure that one of the technical experts will talk about advanced recycling because I think it does matter in the molecule. It wasn't built on city land. It was a partnership. It's a Talca-owned land. That was the question. The question was it on city land? But what I sort of required the staff to do and talk about was make this a city-like project. So in a P3 environment, the cities. It's hard sometimes for cities to figure out that permitting and all the things that matter for sites. So I wanted it to make a faster process that there are some things cities can do, just say the snap of a finger, like, oh, okay, we still follow our ordinances, but it's faster for some cities to do things in government. But I think it should be that way for every project. And so what we did with this project is we ensured the site was prepared properly, engineering, and then worked closely with all the teams, particularly with Talca, and with the county in the funding and making sure that that site got prepared quickly. And that's that. So it's not city-owned land, but definitely a positive note for when a county or city government's involved in a project and it really matters. It can go pretty fast, especially when you have funding from the county.
Samantha, add something, please.
Yeah, I just want to add in too that for us, the city of Mont Belvieu is our biggest population hub. And so that is the natural place for us to start. If we can get the largest population sector in our county to buy into this and be passionate about it, it's much easier for us to roll it out to other areas. And so the city of Mont Belvieu has been a wonderful partner and very active in promoting this among their residents, and it's creating buzz and interest, and I know we'll talk about that here in a little while, but that has spread to other areas of our community. So that's been really helpful too.
To define the growth, guys, Samantha had said in a pre-call, there are 13,000 residents currently in the city of Mont Belvieu. Is that correct, Brian?
Yeah. So we're one of those 1,000 people per year growth. So we're measuring that growth, and one of those.
So that was half that a decade ago.
Yeah. So even 4 years ago, and we're growing just as with a lot of areas within this region. And so in the small amount of recycling, we do one. And we're not going to probably get into this. We do one day a week. So it's a Saturday, and we design the place to where you have all the placards, and I think we're going to talk about that a little bit. But citizens are asking for more. Can we do more days? Can you pick it up at our house? And right now we're just measuring the pace.
Travis, I'm going to go to you. There's ExxonMobil's made similar investments in some other sites. What made Mont Belvieu so much of an ideal partner and so attractive to this investment?
From the investment side, all of our investments have been in the Baytown facility. So with those investments started in 2022 with that first startup, and then also in 2025 we started up our second unit. And our big goal, it's a big number, is 1 billion pounds of advanced recycling capacity into the future. So it's a big, lofty goal. But all that starts with the community and county partnerships. So that's why Mont Belvieu, we have a rich history with the city of Mont Belvieu and Chambers County. We've been working together closely for a very long time. So it's a natural fit whenever the city and the county want to collaborate with something like that. The residents want that, and we can help with the end technology. It's a win-win for everybody. It's a win-win for industry. It's a win-win for their residents. As they continue to grow, every pound we can keep out of the landfills. You come to a new city that's growing rapidly, you don't want your house to eventually be next to a landfill. So we want to try to help some of that expansion and removal. And just one thing for the industry partners in the room, since we're a little outnumbering the city and the county folks. In my opinion, I started sitting on the Chamber of Commerce about 6 months ago, and it was very interesting to kind of see this is where all this starts. I know it's been around for a very long time. I've been in industry for a decent amount of time. I've never been this engaged, and it was eye-opening how quickly, as Brian mentioned, stuff can move whenever you know each other. It's not some random person you're cold calling or emailing that you've never talked with. You can sit down, have a nice lunch, hear from some great presentations from around the area, and really get to know your industry peers, your city peers, and your county peers from the government side. And I think that's very important, and that's why I think this is going to be extremely successful. It's because we built that foundation a very long time ago, well before I got here, much longer after I'll be gone, right? So I think for all the industry folks, just try to get engaged with your local Chamber of Commerce. So much can happen and will happen at that location in the future. And in my experience, I think it's underutilized, and it's something we, as industry partners, we should really try to take a step forward as industry partners working with our city and county folks.
Relationships matter. As the communications person sitting up here, relationships matter, and you get a lot done if you have a relationship built already.
Hey, Travis, can you handle that question from the audience? Explain the difference between mechanical recycling and advanced recycling.
So mechanical recycling is what you're typically used to. It's all the different bins have to be a specific type of plastic, has to be mechanically sorted, cleaned. Advanced recycling is where we think we bring a lot of value to the table. We can take a very mixed feed. This mixed feed is collected via a lot of different operations, and then via supply chain moved into operation in our Baytown facility. We actually are able to feed that as a feedstock, combined with some other feeds into our complex at the Baytown facility, and we're able to break that back down to the base molecules. So while it may come in as a variety of materials, once you add enough heat and pressure, it all goes back to those base couple molecules that are the building blocks for everything. Every chair you're sitting on, every tablecloth, every water bottle here, when it comes down to it, it's a couple base elements, polyethylene, polypropylene, you kind of name it. So we kind of take a variety of things, and we break it down to the base molecules, and then are able to build all the products you utilize every day from that feedstock. So that's where Exxon's technology brings a lot of value to the table versus historical mechanical recycling. But again, it's an and. We need advanced recycling, and we need to keep moving forward on mechanical recycling. We need every last pound out of the landfills.
Right. Travis, there's another question from the audience on the technology there. I don't know how much you can answer, but what percentage of plastics are thrown into the bins and are actually recycled or recirculated? Yeah.
I do not have the data on that.
Cool.
That's a very loaded question. I'll say my viewpoint is this area, I know 2% of the, 2% of the global polyethylene comes out of Mont Belvieu. So
That's what I'm told. Look, I can't verify that, but that's.
I'll say my particular facility makes 5 billion pounds per day, right? Everyone sitting in this room, if you're a producer, the Gulf Coast produces a tremendous amount of polyethylene and polypropylene for the entire world. Exxon's one of the largest exporters out of the Port of Houston. We need to make sure we keep our house in order. We need to make sure we can say with a straight face to our community partners, our new residents, and our children, for that matter, that we're building it, and we're keeping it out of the landfills and out of the streams and out of everything else. What happens on the other side of the world is a different story, maybe not for this particular audience, but we need to make sure we're doing everything we can as the world's largest producer of polyethylene and polypropylene and other plastics, that we're doing everything we can to keep those out of the landfill on our home turf.
Thank you for that, Travis. Brian, I'm going to go back to you kind of on the back of what Travis just said. I mean, what sort of infrastructure or policy shifts are most impactful? I mean, what are cities and even counties doing to try and attract this type of investment?
Yeah, the first question I had when these initial talks were up was, okay, so who's paying for it? I mean, that's what everybody, every budget year trying to figure out, okay, how much is it going to cost us? Normally the recycling side, it's a net zero. I mean, we're just paying for somebody to feel good about recycling, and a lot of places do that. And so where does it actually go? So this is the exciting part about it was, oh, this actually goes back into a feedstock, and you can show that through science and all these things. And so my first thought was, cool, Exxon, let me stamp your name on all these trash bins for recycling, and you pay for it. So that's how it started. Like, hey, but it's cool. You got your name on it, and I'll put it in everybody's house, and then I won't have to pay for any of it. The reality was, we just kind of engineered it to where we could have one site, a couple $100,000 worth of concrete and bins and fencing on our site. That's where we have our collection site. It'll be a model for the county to then use the next place. But I think the initial start was, how are we going to pay for this? You always got to take care of the taxpayers' dollar, and so I don't want to do something that the citizens don't want to do. So you go before our board and tell them about this exciting adventure. Well, that was 1.5 years ago, and so we're still, it still takes time to get the next phase, and that's getting the baling system in place. Cyclics as a company that'll take the feedstock and turn it back into, so all those things play out, and so it does take time. But I think that's our initial thoughts were, all right, as long as I can not lose any money on this, and the community wants it. Well, it turns out they want more. They want to be able to recycle more, and it takes man hours. It takes somebody monitoring the site. Not everybody's really good at reading the signs on the wall that says don't throw this plastic in there. So we do have a little bit of hand sorting from time to time. But advanced recycling, and somebody is much smarter about this than me, but you don't have to separate all the plastics. Used to, you had to take the caps off. You have to do these things with plastics. We put it all in one bin, and that will eventually get baled and sorted faster.
Samantha, you talked about relationships and communicating those relationships. How is Chambers County communicating the importance of advanced recycling and sustainability to its residents? And what feedback or engagement are you receiving?
Yeah, so we're working really hard to educate our residents right now on what's going to happen, what the process is going to be once we start collecting materials. We're going to roll out collection at 3 of our citizens collection sites in specialized bins. We've been working with the team up here in Talca and Cyclics, who we've mentioned, who's another partner of ours, on developing some educational materials. We have a program that we're calling Bag It and Bring It, which has a lot of education associated with it. We're doing direct mailers, especially partnering with the city of Mont Belvieu. We've got banners that are going to go up at citizens collection stations and bin stickers that are going to go on all the bins. But for us, we're going to do a lot of person-to-person conversations. We're going to have our site attendants speak to people when they come in to drop off materials and educate them on what they can bring to our recycling bins, how they can collect those items as much as they can. Of course, they're not experts in advanced recycling, but educate on what the process is. We'll have handouts for them as well. We're using a lot of social media. We've got some landing pages on our website. I know the city of Mont Belvieu is going to do some web stuff as well, and then Cyclics as well. And feedback has been overwhelmingly positive. There was a revolt when we had to stop collecting recycling, and I swear monthly for the past 3 years, I've gotten a message on our county Facebook page or an email, when are you starting recycling again? So like Brian said, this is something people want to do. They just need to know how to do it. And if we can help them by educating them and providing the resources and opportunity, I think our residents are gonna be engaged. And right now they're very, very excited about it. So we're excited.
Thank you so much, Samantha. I'm going to go back to you, Brian. What are some of the lessons learned from this collaboration and this initiative? How can other regions replicate this model, this public-private partnership?
Yeah, just like Samantha talked about, and even Travis talked about, it's the relationships you have prior to any thought process. Like, okay, we're already working together. We see each other at the same events all the time, and I'd rather do that in an admin setting than a crisis setting. So these topics come up, and then that's where the initial collaboration starts. And it's been great to see how willing industry, and then try to is wanting to help, and then show that to the public. So the public, you get sort of a mixed bag of people who are like, oh, I hate this. It's like, well, why'd you move here? I can't say that out loud when the mayor's around, but for the most part, the industry has been here longer than most people. So. we try to live and breathe in goodness, with where our industry's at. I like the lights at night. It's dystopian looking. It's kind of cool. And so if you ever go to Mont Belvieu, people are like, oh, look at this. Well, our city is on the edge of that. And we think that that's the best models, having these relationships prior to any kind of event occurring that's bad, and then educating the public. So then we kind of we get to tell them what the industry is actually doing, not just, oh, they're just making a mess over there. No, we get to tell them about advanced recycling. You get to tell them about recycling, and then that is like, well, so what do they actually do over there? It's not just, oh, they're making oil. There's just some weird things that people say that it actually have live there in my city. And we're like, okay, well, we'll go to the schools and we explain how the sewer system works. We explain how our groundwater system works. And then we've added recycling. So we're like, okay, well, here's the full circle, and we try not to make it, anti-science, and we try to make it make sense to a young person. And that actually translates pretty well on Facebook to the average person out there that only pays attention to, Facebook is not the means, but we're trying to hit the right people in our community to where they understand that the industry is not just there to make money. They're there to actually do a lot of things that make us safer in our city.
Thanks, Brian. Travis, I'm going to go to you with a similar question. I mean, what lessons learned have presented themselves through this process, and also how about internal communication to the people at the site? Did this make sense to them, and were they on board? What was that like? So.
I'll say a lot of the folks that work at Mont Belvieu live within the Mont Belvieu area. So if you talk about what group of people cares the most about this stuff succeeding, it's the people who live there. And I think that's been the most eye-opening thing. So we go to a lot of schools, try to do some of that elementary education. As a father with a 8, 6, and 3-year-old now, I definitely see the impact and the look on their face. And you got to break it down to their level. But if they bring that home and they ask mom and dad about, well, how do I do what the guy in the blue shirt, the construction worker in the blue shirt told me to do, right? It's like, well, that's how we can help also help with the adults and everything else. But I just go back to the Chamber of Commerce idea and like, what do you all see there? And there's a lot of presentations about, we put into the community via taxes and property taxes and other things like that, and then it creates a partnership, and it's symbiotic, right? There's a lot of negative press on the news every day about oil and gas and how bad it is and how terrible it is and all the other things. And that's what you see on the news. And then I go sit down at the chamber and I hear what the actual folks around us and how they care about us and how they want us to succeed and how they want us we all want to partner together to keep growing. It's a mutual beneficial growth. And I think that's what's get lost in social media a lot of times. And that's my biggest eye-opening thing is just seeing how it actually works on the ground level now with industry partners and with the county and the community versus what you read on Facebook about how, it's all, death and everything else. So it's a big learning for me.
Another somewhat technical question from the audience. Travis, we'll see if we can answer that one, but are there plans to include industrial waste or environmental media in the advanced recycling initiative?
I would say there's not a cap as long as the infrastructure is built on what wants to get brought in, right? So I think a good example is just kind of think theoretically, right? If you were to have a football stadium or a other large event or this event where there's thousands of water bottles, there's no restriction as long as the collection and the supply chain can be built, right? So we want to, like we said in the beginning, take every pound of material that was originally going to go into a landfill and put it into our advanced recycling facilities. And we don't want to cap it. Everyone's creative, technology's growing, everything's growing. So we got to keep thinking, keep our eyes open on what's the next opportunity. What's that next thing out there? I didn't know until I got some of my notes a couple of days ago that AstroTurf. So that's something I never would have thought about, right? We got to keep asking questions, all right, I have this. We have an NFL football game. What if everything was recycled from that game? What if we'll just think about the quantity of that material and if that all made it into our, versus the one water bottle, the 2 water bottles here and there. So I think you got to start small, get the infrastructure right, get the kinks out, but then you really need to open up the aperture of what's possible out there, and that's what's exciting for me. And that's why, we hope this is an example for other cities and counties in the Gulf Coast area to learn from this and bring that home, and who knows what other ideas are out there for your particular communities.
Thank you, Travis. And folks, keep those questions coming through Slido if you want to. Samantha, I want to go to you. So Travis touched on this a little bit, but what approaches have you taken to educate the public about advanced recycling, and maybe how does it differ from other traditionally recycling methods? Talk a little bit more about the the community approach, and Travis mentioned going into schools. So.
Yeah, so really this has been an opportunity for me to learn, for my commissioner's court to learn, for the public to learn the difference between advanced recycling and traditional recycling. Like I said, I have a degree in public relations, and so this is all way above my head, and I kind of got thrown into this by my boss, so it's been a learning experience for me as well. But we've been able to really teach our residents why we had to stop accepting their recycling years ago, and the opportunities like Travis just mentioned that are out there if they're willing to buy into this. And so again, I keep saying relationships matter, and so having those conversations with our residents that are open and honest. As a government entity, we are funded by tax dollars, and so we have to be truthful, and I personally feel like we should be as transparent as possible with why we're making some of the decisions we're making. And so being able to have those conversations about, okay, this is what's happening when you bring your trash to the landfill. This is what happens when you bring recycling if it's not processed exactly the way it needs to be processed, if we're following the mechanical recycling model versus the chemical recycling, advanced recycling model. And so we've just been really, like I said, having a lot of conversations and trying to be really transparent, break it down as low as we can. Those school engagements help, because if your kids buy into it, they come home excited about something. It's really hard to tell a cute little baby that's looking in your face with their big eyes and blinking real cute no. So that's been really helpful as well.
And Brian, I'll go to you a similar question, but I mean, how are you helping your residents understand what materials can and cannot be, a part of this as part of this effort, and what's that communication like?
Yeah, we talked a little about that with the placarding. We use the industry standard, or the normal standard recycling placards that you put on things. Then we take pictures, and we've taken those pictures and superimposed them on the bins. So, cardboard is also something that we take a lot of, like 40,000 pounds of cardboard a year so far. And it's small numbers, but this is all scalable, right? So Mont Belvieu might be small, but all of the things that we're doing is a scalable model. And so what we've tried to do is just reach out to the public in a way that, makes sense, not just social media, but it's apparent to me that people want to know more about what types of plastics, the amount of questions we get back on some of our city, we use Civic Plus, we use some things that our city goes back and forth with citizens. They can just communicate on this and drop these questions into our communications manager. And so I see all these questions, and I don't know if they're on ChatGPT or whatever they're doing, but they're putting all these questions about recycling. I'm like, that's probably a better answer than I could give you. But it seems like the way to do that is to continue to have an open site, have somebody at the facility that can talk to the person when they're dropping their things off. We're kind of a concierge city, so we do a lot of public engagement face to face with people, and it doesn't get lost. So the questions are sometimes just enormous. So if you talk to a person face to face and say, yeah, this plastic can go in this bin, and these items can't go in there, that's the way we've done it. It's not mass communication, but we've done it through just a series of sending out within our utility billing. We'll send a letter out everybody receives these. There are still people that come into the city and actually pay their bill, like with a check. I'm like, wow. And we have a lot of placards that we show it on the wall. They come in and go, oh, advanced recycling. So that's one way. On the mass side of it, I think it's continuously putting it on our website and answering those questions as they come up.
Brian, when you went down this road, did you look at other communities, other cities? How did you formulate this plan? Were there models that you emulated as you went in developing this strategy?
Yeah, well, interesting. I mean, if you know some of your city government leaders, they come from other cities or some other place. I've been around the world. It was in the military for 30 years, so I've seen a lot of different places that do different things. And so, I lived in Europe. I know the question came about Europe. I'll just tell you, we had a super, very, very strict recycling when I lived in a German village, right? And we had to recycle, they would come check, how much, you're not producing enough recycling. And it was pretty strange to me, But then I decided one day to follow where that bin went. Don't ask me why, but I was like, man, I wonder where this thing goes. All of it went to an incinerator, just, every bit of the trash. So they recycled. So that was one place, by the way. I'm not saying that's how Europe did it. But I was like, okay, so then I was in a city in North Dakota, and we literally had to ship a sea container full of plastic every month to another location, and it just cost us a lot of money to do it. So we couldn't really tell the public, like, you're not really recycling, you're just pretending. And so, so this is kind of where I didn't want to do that model. This model made sense to me because I actually can see the end state of making jet fuel with the feedstock. That's all. You're gonna, just geek out on advanced recycling. Just look it up, and you're gonna see a lot of naysayers that are talking about this. It is absolutely recycling. It is absolutely producing something that we're using over and over. Now, eventually, there's a whole theory here. It's not you can't recycle forever, but it is a production. You are producing something out of something that would have went in a landfill, and it comes back full cycle. A small percentage of it.
Samantha, anything to add to that?
The idea of a circular economy isn't something we talk a lot about in economic development, and it's really exciting for me to see this. And I think, we were able to look at what other communities do because Exxon's doing it in other places. We've got partners like Talca who are all over the world. We're partnering with the organization Cyclics that I mentioned early on that this is kind of the first model like this that they're doing, but they have experience across the nation with recycling. And it's been helpful to utilize the successes and failures of other communities as kind of a starting point, and then having people like Brian who understands his community, knows what drives them, people like my commissioner's court who knows their residents, knows the people they serve, that are kind of on the back end of this thing. And then like Travis said, the people at Exxon work and live in Mont Belvieu, and so they're able to even give feedback there. And so again, it's really driven by people who live here and work here and care about our communities. And so we're able to take models that we've seen and modify those to fit our communities. And I think that's what's going to make this really, really successful.
So Travis, for ExxonMobil, what does success look like in this partnership over the next 5 to 10 years?
Success for us looks like continued growth of this operation. Like I said, we've been a little over a year running. We want to keep that increasing the volume and increasing every last pound we can, not going to the landfill and into our advanced recycling units. And that continued growth in operation. And what would be a great thing for me is if we can see this model continue to proliferate across the Gulf Coast area. That'd be a huge win. Like I said, there's a lot of opportunity. There's a lot of growth all around this particular region. If we can kind of keep emulating this public and private model with industry as well, I think that's a huge win for the entire industry.
Brian, for the city of Mont Belvieu, what does that success look like, and how do you measure its impact?
Yeah, obviously the pounds of recycling is a metric, but I think, already watching this, people get involved, and there's a committee that's involved now, and so they had to have bylaws, and all that stuff is, makes government, sometimes slow. But what happens is, if we can just give this model to everybody else, that's success. As Chambers County turns this into the Chambers County recycling program, good. We'll still, it's still in Mont Belvieu. We still have the history. If that model then says, let's take this now to whether it's Harris County or somewhere else, and all that goes back into feedstock to Exxon, and in 10 years from now, I'm like, hey, I know what that is. Now, obviously, hopefully, we're smarter at that point, but this is a good model to build on and to increase just around the region. And so I'm going to present this to our other city managers and some of our other places we go, and try to use this as a way that they can get involved with the industry and reach out. And so when you're sitting in those rooms and the city's reaching out about this advanced recycling, you have our contacts. I know what that's all about.
And Samantha, for Chambers County, how do you measure the success over the next 5 to 10 years?
I think for us it's engagement and use of the facilities and use of the program. Yes, we'll be measuring metric tons and all of that type of things. But for me, it's just seeing people get involved. We are starting, like I said, with 3 of our citizens collection sites, but our goal is to expand that to all of our citizens collection sites. And so I hope to see a day whenever we are having to add more bins and possibly expand hours to make sure that we're really meeting the needs of our residents. So for us, that's what it looks like. But again, being able to be replicated would be great. I saw there was a question about partnering with us on the initiative. For Chambers County, it's important to serve our residents, but we also understand the importance of regionality. And so we'd love for anybody to get involved that's interested. I would welcome them to reach out to any of us, and we can have a conversation about that. Same thing with you guys who are private industry. If you're interested in partnering with us, I think any of us would be willing to take an email from you or have a conversation with you about how you could get plugged in with us to partner, because we really want this. We want this to be the spark that starts the flame. And so we want this to be a model that can be replicated, but also something that can be expanded across the region.
Travis, back to you. I mean, what innovations or expansions in advanced recycling are on the horizon? You can take that question anywhere you want.
Okay, so I'll just go back to a little bit of the history. I got my notes, so these are big numbers, so I don't want to mess them up. So in 2022, we implemented our first facility, and that was 80 million pounds of annual production. In 2025, here in the last couple months, we added a second facility, and that was another 80 million pounds of capacity for advanced recycling in our Baytown area. And we also announced a $200 million expansion as well over the course of the next couple of years, and that investment will increase our capacity by 350 million pounds. So rough numbers, that'll bring us to 500 million pounds of annual advanced recycling capacity in the near future. And the big thing there is we need feedstock. We need more programs like this to keep letting us utilize that entire capacity that we're building. We're investing in communities. Every one of our investments comes with new jobs to the local community. It comes with construction. It comes with all the other services a lot of people in this room provide, right? So every dollar we spend is another dollar that gets circulated around this room, but we also want to make sure some of the programs like this are going to continue to make that feedstock robust, and that's how we all win.
Brian, I'll go to you with a similar question. What's on the horizon for City of Mont Belvieu?
Yeah, same as what I said. We're a small player in this, but if we can show other people, other cities that this is the model to use. You know, you talked about AstroTurf. That is not insignificant. If you look that up too, that's an interesting challenge. And to be able to tear that up and turn it into a feedstock, it's kind of a great story that Exxon's able to do this and produce items that are constantly used anyway. And that's where we'd like this to go. I'm thankful I'm sitting up here for Mont Belvieu, and it's tiny numbers, but we are going to try to make this like the easiest model to replicate. And I think that's what I said about the future. I think that puts our name in good stead with the public, because Mont Belvieu's supporting the industry in a way that does give back, that makes this make sense to the normal person who may not even work in the industry.
And Samantha, speaking from the county perspective, I mean, how might this investment further benefit maybe the entire Houston Port region?
So, like I said, we really have a mind for regionality in Chambers County. We recognize that, we have residents who work outside of our county, but we also have a lot of people that live outside it. We just did a workforce study not that long ago, and a lot of people that live in neighboring counties come and work in Chambers County. And so for us, understanding that we're benefiting not only our residents, but also our workforce is really helpful. 80% of the Houston ship channel is actually in Chambers County's jurisdiction. Not a lot of people are aware of that. And then we are obviously a huge petrochemical hub. And so being able to partner with industry like Exxon, like you guys in this room, and expand what we're doing here to create more of that circular type economy is beneficial for our workforce and our residents, but also the ecosystem. I mean, we also kind of talk a lot in Chambers County. We call it ourselves nature next door because we're right next door to Harris County, but we have, you know, a 50,000 plus acre national wildlife refuge and a lot of natural resources. If you're an avid fisherman, we have fresh and salt water. Come visit us and fish. And so being able to sustain and preserve those natural resources while continuing to be such a huge economic hub is important to us. And so being able to expand this regionally would be wonderful for us.
Travis, I'm going to wrap this up in just a minute, but there's a great question for the audience here for you, and that is, what can some suppliers or vendors do to support your initiatives right now at your site?
I think it's been said, just reach out to us. We want to grow. We want this model to grow. Please just reach out. There's a ton of partners involved with this. The supply chain needs to keep growing in its robustness, and that's going to take a lot of folks in this room. It's going to take folks in all different counties and cities and jurisdictions. So just be curious. Reach out, see what's working, see what's not working. Everyone's going to be very open at the city and the county. And we hope we can get as much material into our facilities in the future as possible. So it's very open for future collaborations.
Well, look, we need to move on to our next panel. I really appreciate Travis, Brian, and Samantha being on. Guys, let's tell them thank you for being here.